Hi and welcome to today's video. Today I will be separating / abstracting all of these functions that were created in last video, and I will be separating them into multiple classes and I will develop them further. So I basically started with separating the functions that read or / write to a file. So these are the ones that we check if the user exists or the username exists, those functions that we created in the last video. And I called this class a file class. And now there's a difference between C# and C++ in the way that the compilers work. And in C++, sorry, we have to create a header file, right? But this header file, it contains the info that a function / class exists, but it doesn't contain the actual code. For that, we have to implement the code in another CPP file. So there's a bit of a difference, and then where we want to use that file class, we just include the header file. I hope that makes a bit of sense, right? And so I've basically done the same thing for the SceneManager class. This will just hold the logins, sign up, and those types of stuff, right? And you can see here, basically we can include the header file, like I said, and then we can just call the file class username exists or user exists, and that's how we can have different classes in different files, right? I know it took me a bit of a while to exactly figure out the thing with header files and why they're even there. It's just that C++ works, their compiler works a bit different than from normal C#. Alright, and you can see here I'm just calling in the main function, I just call so that it will still be pretty much the same. And then I also, in the user, I added the balance, so now user has a balance, right? And so I started creating a getValue function, which it's gonna return a string value, but it takes in a line. And what it does is just it finds the position where the variable and value splits, right? And it just loops to get all of the chars for the value and simply returns it. So that's that function. And now here comes a very good reason why we chose to have that ID, because now we can very simply just get a user by ID. And so it takes in a ID, right? So we instantiate a new user struct, right? And so we find where this ID matches to a line, right? If line is equal to line to search, and then we just break and we continue to the code. We continue with the code. Now, if there was no line that was found or no ID, well then we just return a empty user struct, right? And so we loop until we find the end of the curly brackets, right? And so we just basically give the output all of everything that it needs, right? So it adds the values to the user struct output, and then we just get the new line and we increase the count, we close the file and return the output. And there's a last function that I created, which is a DeleteLine, right? And I thought there was an easier way to do it, but I guess not. So what we have to do is we have to create a temporary file, right? And we loop all lines from the input file, right? It's a parameter from the input file and write to the temporary file as long as it's not the line to delete. So the only line that will not output is the line to delete. And then we simply close both of the files, we delete the first file and we rename the temporary to the input file. right? And we can do that with the update auto link. And you can see in the main file, we just, as normal, we can see that well, there are technically no changes done to the actual application, or actually there was. I just made the when we log in, we reset the console, right? That's like the only difference we made, but we also added some functions that are actually going to be very useful later on. And that's what I did in these couple of days, I know. But in the next video, we will go over the deposit and withdrawal process. So yeah, see you next time.